Hello everyone, my name is Hota and I'm here to share my first impressions on Splatoon Raiders. If you're not interested in hearing someone else's opinion, you should probably click out of this video. Also, this is not going to be spoiler free. To start off, I want to talk about the things that I love, then I'll discuss some of my largest gripes. To my surprise, there aren't many negative things that I have to say about the game though. I really think the developers crushed it, and here's why. The level of customization in this game is so great. They took damn near like every aspect of the player's kit and made it editable. We have main weapons with specific skills on them, gadgets that we can make as broken as we want, given we have the slots available and, you know, like the upgrades for them. Not to mention the skills we get from relics found over the course of a playthrough. And then last but not least, our ink tank determining our overall playstyle. Which brings me to my next point. How do we achieve all these different styles of customization and make our inkling broken, you ask? Well, that would be via addictive gameplay, of course. The first thing I took note of once I realized how the gameplay loop worked was that if you're a fan of games where there's a somewhat repetitive grind, you'll love Raiders. If not, you'll probably find the task of fighting gauntlets of enemies very, very monotonous. The closest action RPG I can probably compare this to, because I'm a huge fan of the franchise, is any of the Monster Hunter games. Raiders shares the same trait of like grinding for certain parts to make powerful equipment, and even the in-game grind of like fighting RNG in order to get the most min-max weapon possible with a skill on it that you like. If you enjoy any RPG where the main task is grinding out certain materials via fights in order to make your character an ink-slinging, swift-swimming god, then this is definitely the game for you. And if you enjoyed the power creep of Splatoon 3's side order, I think you're bound to enjoy this as well. The design, or in some cases like redesign, of gadgets is phenomenal, and it speaks toward how much love and care was put into this title as a whole. All the gadgets and their upgrades are like so innovative, and we shouldn't be surprised if some of these new gimmicks make it into Splatoon 4. Some of my favorite reworks fall under the Tactical Tanks toolkit, two of which are Tether Whale, the successor to the annoying-ass global range, cancerous Killer Whale, and High Fiver, the descendant of the sadly underwhelming line marker from Splatoon 3. These are just two examples of the team taking something that's pretty busted and making it like healthy and versatile, and making something similar to another sub more unique and balanced around player skill and expression. Now for my complaints, I'd like to stress that they in no way ruin the game entirely for me. This game is great, plain and simple, but like anything in life, it isn't perfect, and that's to be expected. My biggest gripe with Raiders is that some main weapons are immediately shafted by the fact that they rely on gadgets having good upgrades to have as much optimal DPS in comparison to, say, your average shooter or dually. Most of this obviously occurs when the main weapon selected is powerful in damage, but lacks in either mobility or turfing capability. Of course, you can select a tank that better suits covering these weaknesses, but your gadgets will only help but so much until you properly upgrade them. I personally love and main shooters because I'm a basic bitch, but I imagine people who use something like Charger or Blaster face some difficulty spikes on specific levels that felt next to impossible. I faced some walls myself on the hardest difficulty with a shooter, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is the case. And there's nothing stopping you from grinding another mission and returning later, but there are some cases where I'm certain a player could complete a mission if they had a shooter of the same level in their hands instead. Unfortunately, my second complaint is that I also share a similar sentiment toward Tactical Tank. It suffers in the same way main weapons do in early game, in that until you have proper upgrades for its gadgets, its versatility is outshined by the sheer power of both the power and the speed tank. This is later remedied by an upgrade that I won't spoil, but even some of its perks in the mid to late game pale in comparison to the other two. Toward the end of the game, the tanks feel well balanced, but it's clear that power is like by far the best, with speed following second and tactical unfortunately being last, but still viable nonetheless. Last but not least, my only other issue with the game is players not being rewarded for playing on the highest difficulty possible. I honestly find it a little silly. While it is optional and can be changed at any time, which is awesome, don't get me wrong, I do have mixed feelings. On one side, I understand that because it can be changed on a whim, players could probably exploit this by clearing certain missions on high difficulty for better gear and then reverting back to normal. But in the same way the developers give them agency over, you know, difficulty level as an option, isn't exploiting the game also an option? I'll admit I'm having a blast on the highest difficulty regardless of whether I'm being rewarded for it, but I just think the feeling of overcoming something extremely difficult does deserve something, even if it's like not too much of a leg up. Just give us some extra spiralite or salmonid parts or something, I don't know. And that concludes my list. If you stuck around, thank you for listening, and feel free to drop your opinions or how much you hate my own in the comments. Alright, squids, stay fresh.